Hey y'all, this is Jason with Kindred Heritage, and this week I'm going to be building some end tables for my den. Let's get into it. I have this piece of mahogany here that's about 3 inches thick that I'll use to make the table base. And then I have these 4 pieces of walnut here that I'll use for the table tops. None of these pieces of wood are perfect and all contain knots and checks that will make this a challenge. However, I should be able to make 2 end tables from this pile. First, I'll start by resawing them into smaller pieces. The maximum capacity of my bandsaw is 6 inches, so I need to begin by cutting everything down to that width. Before I do that, I need to make sure that I have a clean surface to run against the fence. I'll spend some time with my favorite number 6 plane to create a straight edge. And now that I have a straight edge on all of these pieces, I can begin resawing them. While I do love hand tools, a bandsaw makes quick work of this operation. It's time to make a mess. I don't have a planer, so I need to clean up all of the bandsaw marks and thickness these boards by hand. I'll bring the mahogany boards down to 3/4 of an inch thick and the walnut down to 1 inch thick. I have just enough of this mahogany to make the bases and need to be strategic about my cuts. I'll cut out all the knots and use just the good material. I've planned on making the long leg and short leg from each strip by cutting them diagonally. I've used the original template to make a second template that is just the long leg. This gives me both the angle that I'll cut on the top and the angle for the short leg. There shouldn't be much pressure on this joint because I don't plan to stand on these tables, and there's no need to complicate it with mortise and tenons, and a doweling jig is what I have. So I've landed on a simple dowel connection. Dowel joints are simple enough, but do need to be clamped for glue up. Because of the angles, I need to add blocks to the back to change the clamping angle. The cutoffs from creating these angles make perfect clamping blocks. Never throw away anything is a motto any woodworker can relate to. This is one of 2 glue ups on these legs, so I'll switch over to the tabletops. This walnut has some flaws that I need to avoid in order to make the tops seamless. I'll first remove the flaws with the table saw. I don't own a jointer, but my trusty number 6 plane makes pretty quick work of jointing these into a large panel. For larger glue ups, I like to lay down a piece of contractor's paper to make cleanup a breeze. I've made a mark on the second template to show the angle of the connection to the tilted leg, and I'll cut these quickly with the miter saw. Now let's just drill more dowel joints and glue them together. While the legs are in the glue up, I will flatten the tabletops. All right, after hours of planing, I finally got both of these tabletops flat. I'll work on making sure that they're smooth after I get them cut into circles, but for now, I'll clean up some of this mess and switch back over to the legs. I'll quickly clean up most of the glue squeeze out with a block plane. I'll sand them properly once they're glued together. Now, I need to make sure each of these 4 blanks are identical, so I'll glue them to the template and route them all to the same shape. My shop manager wanted to supervise this part, but the router is loud and he'll have to wait outside until it's done. You can watch me glue up the templates into the blanks though. While I have the router out, I'll cut these into circles and finish the edges. So now that I have the leg blanks, I need to connect them. I've planned on this back edge here to be a 45-degree miter. The challenge is that I can't run these legs along the fence. That would force me to run this edge against the fence. This leads to a dangerous situation with the cutoff being between the tilted blade and the fence and will lead to kickback. I'll manually cut these with a hand plane. I've slapped together this simple jig that will allow me to repeat this cut. I'll just make sure to reverse the cut direction for each of the mating legs to ensure that they meet at 45 degrees. Once they're glued together, it will be difficult to route these, so I'll round over most of the edges before joining each pair of legs. For the glue up, I made a few of these jigs on my 3D printer that will allow me to use F-clamps to press the miter together. It makes them look a bit like a stegosaurus, which does make my inner child happy. While the legs are in clamps, I'll finish the tabletops. There is a lot of grain change in these pieces, which makes it difficult to plane, so I'll use a card scraper and some old-fashioned hand sanding. There were also a few knots that I couldn't remove, so I'll fill them with hot glue before I apply the finish. The legs are out of the clamps, so it's time to clean the glue and round over the back edge. And here's the final problem to solve. Because these legs tilted inwards to mate at 45 degrees, the tops are no longer flat and won't mate flush to the tabletops. I'll use a block plane to flatten these corners to match the inside edge. A few quick swipes with some sandpaper is all these needed before finishing. The final step here is to attach the tabletops. I'll be using figure-8 brackets to attach them. In order to ensure that the tabletops sit flat, I need to cut recesses for these brackets. And here's the final result. I love the contrast of the walnut and mahogany. The tops have a great chatoyancy. The legs have an amazing color and grain structure too. I may be partial, but I think they came out amazing. Let me know what you think below. Anyways, thanks for watching.